Welcome back to the review, and today we're going to be reviewing A Complete Unknown, the 2024 biopic about Bob Dylan. Now, Bob Dylan has influenced a lot of my favorite 60s musicians and a lot of musicians after that. I think a lot of his early work is great, his more folk songs, some of his rock and roll is good. His gospel music from the late 70s is really good. And you probably heard his most famous song, like a Rolling Stone, like a lot of his Johnny. I also like a lot of his Johnny Cash covers. And he's a very interesting artist. And the movie, compared to other biopics, really stays more faithful to his story, comparatively to Bohemian Rhapsody, which is the one from 2018 about Queen and Freddie Mercury. That one did a lot more altering of history. I mean, it's not the worst movie. I think it gets a lot more hate, but it definitely, you could have made a more interesting film about Queen, because they were pretty the stuff Freddie Mercury got into is very interesting, and some of it's not safe for work and would have been R-rated, which I think the movie might already been R-rated. I don't know. I have to check it. This movie's R-rated, just for language, which wasn't the worst language. I'm not gonna lie. And there's a lot of great scenes in it. You got your more emotional scenes, like when Bob is saying goodbye to Woody, who's one of his idols, and he plays the harmonica in front of him. Because one of our first scenes is Bob visiting Woody and meeting Pete in this hospital, and he plays him a song, and then Pete introduces him to this club, this folk club, and he begins to start recording covers, and then by 65 he has his own original songs, and he's our big climax of the film is when he's playing at the Newport Folk Festival. Now, he was starting to do more rock and roll type stuff with electric guitars. So they were mad, because they view themselves as strictly folk only, and they determine what folk is and what folk's not. And he plays like a Rolling Stone, and he comes back for one more track, and Sylvie, who was his fictional love interest, who in real life was this woman named Susie, she leaves him. Well, they were already broken up, but she gets on a ferry and goes back to New York, and it's really emotional because in the movie, Bob cheats on her with Joan Baez. I think she's a pretty interesting character. I'd say Timothy Chalamet does a really good job playing as Bob Dylan. He gets the voice down really good. The appearance, and I don't know how, while watching this film, I forgot that his real name wasn't Bob Dylan. It was Robert Zimmerman, because as you know, he's of Jewish descent. I believe his Jewish name or Hebrew name ended with Abraham, which is pretty cool. Now I know Bob Dylan became a Christian towards the 70s, and he has a lot of good gospel music, but I love how he stayed true to some of his Jewish roots. I've heard he still went to Shabbat dinner during the 60s, even after he left Judaism. And it's still a really cool story. And Bob Dylan is, like I said, he's a very influential artist. Especially with his style of the harmonica and the guitar. I'm sure there was someone who did that before him. But just the number of artists he influenced in the 60s. There's stories of how he got the Beatles into smoking weed and stuff like that. So overall, a great legacy. The film turned out, like I said, really good. It didn't really drag on. It could have went into more of his childhood, but I understand why it didn't. And it's a good film representing of Bob Dylan. Compared to other biopics, it works. It's an enjoyable movie. It's not too long. It's only 2 hours and 20 minutes. So, if you're going to watch a biopic, I'd recommend this one. It was pretty good, actually. And I'm glad, because this is the most modern movie I've seen. As you know, on the channel, we've only been reviewing older films from the 80s. So, it's kind of cool to see something modern that's actually pretty dang good. So, I'll be back with another Nightmare on Elm Street video soon. The last one before we get into the Friday the 13th series. I'll be doing a ranking of the Friday the 13th characters too, to open us into that. So, I'm pleased you guys are with me on this journey. I love you guys. As always, stay blessed. Take care. You guys make this happen. So always love you guys. Stay blessed. Take care.